Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 712 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Ty Talcott. And if you want to hear our conversation about compliance within chiropractic, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have Ty Talcott on. As you can see on the screen if you're watching this, he says Ty, the compliance guy. Really excited to have him on. We met each other recently in Denver at the Chiropractic Congress event. This guy is somebody really special in this world, helping chiropractors navigate a lot of confused topics. He's educated in 48 state associations, working with 6 different colleges, and focuses on compliancy. I'll let him talk a whole lot more about that, but we're going to go through and talk about why it's important to support chiropractors with his work, what's good, what's not good, and what we can do to improve upon things. We will talk about some of the core questions that I send out about his story and some advice he would give to chiropractic students and where he sees the profession going in the next 2 decades. Really curious about his angle on cybersecurity, so we're going to touch on that a little bit. And maybe there's too many regulations for chiropractors. We'll let him tell you that. And really cool, he's doing mentorship for chiropractors and helping them grow their practices. But one of the things I'm really excited for him to tell about is what he's seen trending and changing over the past decade with chiropractors that are in school to where they are out of college and practicing for the past 10 years. So it's going to be a really insightful episode. Before we get into this episode, I'll let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We know what it's like to be censored. We know what it's like to be shadow banned. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled. We'd never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things. If you need advice on guiding your family in the health decisions, reach out to a chiropractor in your city or your neighborhood. They're going to be a value of information to you. If you need help on finding those, send a message to Ty or myself. We'll help you out. Philosophically speaking, we protect the sacred trust. It's BJ Palmer's last written words. If you want to learn more about the profession, click on the show notes and go and check out what BJ Palmer's sacred trust is. You should guard it well too. Philosophically speaking, please share the show with chiropractic students. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. Share the show, because we do support and believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but they're removing it out of the schools, which is watering down the profession, which is getting us to where we are today. And we're going to talk a lot about those things. We do believe in innate intelligence, universal intelligence, and educated intelligence. I know I shouldn't have to say all this stuff, but philosophy matters, and that's why this profession stands alone. And it's not a part of other parts of the medical world. It's chiropractic. So with that, it's episode 712 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Ty Talcott, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's an exciting opportunity, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into this one. Your story. You have this. How many years have you been in the chiropractic profession?
Oh, way long time. I don't know if we want to talk about that. That's a lot of years now, but I was in private practice for 20 years, and I've been functioning in a different capacity for the last 40 years on top of that practically. So it's been a long time. But you see, I had a long time because at 16 years old, My mother had been in bed for several weeks with a back problem that she couldn't get up and move and walk, and they told her she had to have surgery. And my dad and I carried her into a chiropractor's office, and she walked out. And at 16, I decided that's what I'm going to do. I love to work with my hands. I love people. I love to make a difference in people's lives. And that's what I'm going to do. And at that point, I started going to school year round. I started taking college courses while I was in high school, and I completed 8 years of college in 4.5 years by going summers, nights, intersessions, and was one of the youngest chiropractors to ever graduate. And then when I got out into practice, I decided, you know what, I want to help more people than anybody's ever helped in the history of chiropractic. And I got focused on both how can I help more people and creating the income it takes to create the facility that you would have to have for that. So I set my sights on being the first $1 million chiropractic practice. And back then, nobody had heard of a practice doing more than about $300,000 a year, something like that. And within 16 months, we hit the $1 million mark. And it was pretty amazing and happened pretty quickly. And this was back in the 1970s. So this was in dinosaur days when pterodactyls flew the earth and you had to put your feet out to stop the cars with stone tires and that kind of stuff. And as I went along, I developed something that I think is important for everybody in the profession to really think about. And that is, I developed a passion for a chiropractor to have a duty. It's not just about helping people. It's not just about being in the world with others. We do something different than any other health profession does. There's nobody else who can do what we do. And because of that, if we don't help people with what we know how to do, they're not getting the help that they need. And so in my mind, a chiropractor's duty is to help as many people as we can with this unique approach that we have for healthcare. And as doctors take on, if chiropractors will take on that as their duty, it's exactly the thing that made me get out of practice. What do you mean? How could that be? You've got a duty. How could you possibly get out of practice? Well, one day I woke up and I said, you know, we've got a practice that we're averaging 160 to 200 patients a day. We're helping a lot of people. But if I could help 1,000 chiropractors know how to help an extra 10,000 people in their lifetime of practice, now I'm impacting millions of lives. And so I stepped out of private practice to help other people learn how to be more efficient, more effective, better manage patients to be able to help more people. And then from that, I ended up finding out on that basis of working in that granular area, areas such as compliance, areas doctors hate to deal with, but it takes away from their time and their ability to help patients. So if I can help everybody in the profession get some of these monkeys off their back, they're able to help more people and focus on their true duty. And I think at that point, everybody starts to win. The patients win, the doctors win, society wins, everybody wins. And so that's the course and the path that I've been on for, that specific path for over 20 years. And I just don't see stopping doing that. It's too much fun.
Well, you kind of answered the first question that I have coming off of our normal scripted questions is supporting chiropractors and why. And it sounds like there's a huge necessity for support, not just for the practitioner for understanding the profession better, but running the business better.
Yes,
And
you're not taught well in school how to run business. You get chiropractors that are dedicated to taking care of people, but they don't know how to do that in a way that keeps the doors open. And so that whole area, all the other things about practice, other than the treating of a patient, these are areas that many chiropractors have deficiencies. And I love helping them with those things.
so let's get a bit granular on that topic.
Yeah.
What's good with that system at the moment? What's good with chiropractic right now?
What's good with chiropractic right now is that I believe we're in a position as a profession, if we step out and take advantage of this, to become the doctors for anti-aging, along with immediate health care. We are the anti-aging profession. And here's why I say that. When you think of somebody as being old or getting old, what's the first thing you think of besides maybe gray hair? And that's their hair getting stiff and inflexible. What you think of is a person maybe pushing a walker with a cane and sort of bent over and shuffling their feet along and moving slow. It's called inflexibility. Now let's look at aging. You become inflexible. Your arteries harden. You become inflexible. Your joints stiffen. You become inflexible. Look at how people think as they get older. They become inflexible. In fact, they'll say this as they get to a certain point, they'll say the same story the same way. And if you interrupt them, they'll stop and then they'll start back on the very next word of that same story the same way. Everything about aging is lack of flexibility. Arteries are inflexible, muscles are inflexible, joints are inflexible, movements are inflexible, thought processes are inflexible, changing in life is inflexible, routine and patterns are inflexible. Who else in the world deals with inflexibility better than a chiropractor working on joint mobility, muscle mobility, which increases circulation, increases arteries? We work with nutrition. We work with other areas that affect the body to offset these different parts of aging. And anti-aging functional medicine, functional chiropractic, functional healthcare means just that, improving function. It's kind of equal to turning back the clock of time. Maybe you can't really turn it back, but you're trying to slow it down. You're trying to, however, improve function to the way it functioned in the past. Different parts of your body, all your body as a whole, spiritually, mentally, your thought processes. It's a tremendous opportunity for our profession to become the leaders in helping people live longer, look better, and live better. And what else is more important than those things? I think those are pretty doggone important.
Well, I think you being the compliance guy, you understand that a lot of the baseline for people, at least from the insurance angle of the profession, is they want people to get back to activities of daily living.
Right.
And I believe it's a bigger game than that. That's just like check the box for the paperwork. But when you're talking about longevity, now we're talking about something that is a quotient that there's no box to check.
That's right.
Like giving people
not very easily measurable. And so that takes an expertise with some finesse. You know, where are we? How far can we go with this for that individual?
Well, that's why I've noticed over 16 years of working in chiropractic, I've started to understand like the base of it, science, philosophy, art. And that's a big thing for people to understand because there's not many professions out there with the base of philosophy like chiropractic. And the outside looking in, the people that are using it as service, they don't know that chiropractors are artists. So there's a disconnect between what the chiropractor is going to do for a service and what the person that's receiving the adjustment for looks at from the practitioner. And they're like, none of these guys do it the same. So
that's right. There's many ways to move a bone. There's many ways to improve mobility. There's many ways to do that. And the great news is, as long as and as much as you possibly can, if you're doing this and using approaches that are natural approaches that are synergistic with the body's function, then you don't get into an issue where you're having to treat the treatment you did. In other words, when you try to change or alter a body function through an artificial approach, through a chemical drug, an injection, that type of thing, then the body responds to that. It rebels against a part of that. It may have some beneficial effect, but it rebels against the part that's not synergistic with the natural function. And then it starts to affect that. And then you have to use another drug or another something to change another function that you've affected trying to fix one thing. And then pretty soon you see the old people in the assisted living or the old folks' homes or whatever, they're taking 19, 20 drugs a day. Well, half of those drugs are counteracting side effects of the other drugs. And it's a compounding issue that goes on and on. Whereas if you're actually making a natural improvement of some sort, then the other organs and functions of the body respond to that by improving instead of being interfered with. And so again, it doesn't say that medicine has no place. I mean, you cut your arm off, don't come see me. Okay, go to the emergency room. That's not my area. But if you're talking about wanting to be healthier, then the chiropractic profession has got a lock on that if they want to hold on to it. There's some problems that could occur, but it's there for the taking if the profession will move that direction.
Well, I love everything you're saying, and I'll come from the other side of it. Is I've also noticed that everything good about chiropractic, the people that are not in chiropractic borrow from the philosophy, they borrow from the languaging, they borrow from the methods. Um, and not to say that other people shouldn't develop and advance and evolve their style of practice when it comes from PTs or MDs or pharmacies, but whatever the chiropractic profession has stood for 130 years, other people are pulling away the language of what chiropractic has been established on, and they're using it for their gain and marketing and branding.
And that's very insightful. And here's something that I will put out there, mainly for the chiropractors who are listening, because sometimes they start to get fearful that other professions will take away what we do in some way or become major interference. I'm going to tell you this. I don't care how good a PT or an MD thinks they are with manipulation, moving bones or joints. When you're doing it for a different reason, you have a different result. Let me give that to you in a little more science. There's a thing called placebo effect. We all know it's real. You give certain people a certain pill and you tell them something's going to happen, and it happens to a certain percentage of those people. Well, this is true in all kinds of care. And so when even an osteopath who has more potential of having some training in the art of manipulation, when they're manipulating a joint, they're thinking about increasing range of motion in the joint. And that's legitimate, but that's not what a chiropractor is thinking about. Yeah, we're increasing range of motion in the joint, but we're setting up cerebrospinal fluid changes. We're setting up nervous system changes. We're setting up reflexes with internal organs, changes in circulation, changes in lymphatic. When we're educating our patients on what this adjustment does versus a manipulation where you just move something, make it, make a sound or whatever. When a doctor describes to a person what they're doing with a manipulation, it limits the amount of outcome that can have for the patient, because it presents into that patient's mind from a philosophical and an art standpoint, a limitation of what can be accomplished by that. Chiropractor opens up potential. When they explain what's happening, the patient starts to look for that. And when they start to see, wow, he said when he worked on that bone, he said, I'm going to work on your stomach bone. And I said, does the stomach have a bone? I never knew that was true. And the doctor says, well, no, but the nerves from here go to your stomach. And sometimes when you improve that nerve flow, something will change in the stomach. So just kind of watch and see, do you feel like you're digesting food better? Do you feel like maybe you can eat things you couldn't eat before? And all of a sudden patients are looking for that, and they start to go, wow, you know what? A change did occur. And now the patient starts to get encouraged that the adjustments are not just for like a orthopedic or biomechanical situation, but it's actually affecting their body. And they start to look for those changes. If you're not looking for them, you don't see them. You don't realize a cause and effect. Once you see a cause and effect as a patient, then you go, I want more care. I want more of that, because it's affecting things in my body in a much bigger way than the patient might have thought of when they walk through the door. And we need to embrace that as a profession, that we're having profound effects, including anti-aging effects on people with what we're doing. We're not just an orthopedic, you got a pain in the neck, we're going to work on your neck. That's not what we do as a profession. That happens to get cleared up with what we do, but that's not where our focus needs to be. If we're going to be that profession of the future, that anti-aging profession, we need the education, We need the doctors understanding what they're doing, the patient understand what we're doing and what the potential outcomes are so that they participate in care long enough to start to get some of these benefits and results. And then we can take over an entire generations to come as being the doctor of health. Let the other folks be the doctor of disease. We'll be the doctor of health. And then we'll be sought after by people who want to stay healthy, live longer, live better, look better, function better. They're going to want to, a chiropractor is going to be their main person on their team. Doesn't mean they won't ever use a medical doctor or ever have to have a surgery or ever have a reason for another type of practitioner. It just means their main focus, their main mentor, the main person that, I have patients that would call me. They say, Doc, I know you don't treat this kind of problem, but before I go to see this other doctor, I want your opinion because I was their trusted advisor. They knew I would give them the straight scoop. They knew I wouldn't lie to them or try to manipulate them into something, no pun intended, but that I would in fact treat them with the respect of giving them the best advice that I knew to give. And they trusted me because they were having results in other areas of their life. And then we can help guide people toward health and prevent disease as much as possible. And then when disease does strike and it's too big and the body just can't handle it anymore, well, then there's a time and a place absolutely for the medical profession. But they're given the wrong place at the wrong time, in my opinion.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Well, everything that you're saying here drives me to this Thomas Edison quote. And he says, the doctor of the future will give no medication, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease.
Absolutely.
And,
it's kind of the cheering point of chiropractic care. I mean, he just sort of defined it almost.
It's the rebel cry of the profession.
It is.
And the thing is we have to reframe that just slightly. And I've seen people speak from different stages and said, it's not the doctor of the future. It's the doctor of the present.
Yeah, it's a doctor now. You just have to be able to access them. Who they are, how do you access them? And hopefully that's a lot of what you do here with your show, is to open the eyes of people who, when should I and why should I and how should I access the chiropractic profession for care? And just opening up those awarenesses are tremendous. Because I mean, I all the time had patients go, if I'd known this 20 years ago.
Why didn't anybody share this with me? Why didn't anybody tell me this?
Oh, my kids are 40 years old now. I wish I'd known this when they were 4 days old. Because there's things we can do from the time of an infancy that prevent problems into the future. It's amazing.
I pray for the day that when people show up to a clinic, that doesn't come out of their mouth ever again.
Exactly.
We have to do a better job of building community awareness of what chiropractic can do for them. That's why when I open up, I say, hey, we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things. But if you need guidance with your health or questions, please find a chiropractor. Because I want that to be the point of contact for all. Yes.
Well, the end all, but it should be in most cases. Now, if you got a toothache, probably call the dentist first.
Call the dentist.
If you have a pain in the jaw, you might actually still call me first. I might end up sending you to a dentist, but I'm going to check some other things. It may not be a tooth at all if it's TMJ or in the jaw area. But yes, I mean, I think that we probably all understand some of those type of areas, but in general, for healthcare, health, that word, that should trigger your mind toward chiropractic care.
So, advice. I know that a lot of students do listen to it. Do you have any advice that you would give to a chiropractic student that's finishing up school, like say in 2 months?
Yeah, I've got some advice. It may surprise you a little bit what it be, what that might be. Um, One of the issues that when I first went into chiropractic back in the ancient days, nearly every person in chiropractic college was there from a personal experience. They carried their mom in who'd been in bed for 3 weeks and she walked out. Someone in their family had an experience, they had an experience. I had every age group in my class in chiropractic college. I had people in their 40s and 50s, in their 30s, back in school changing careers because they had such a life-changing experience. And so what we had back in the day was a large, huge percentage of hugely dedicated, on purpose people going into the chiropractic profession. Now, as time goes by and professions mature, things are going to change, and that's fine. And chiropractic became much more because of myself and people like me and us helping other people in the profession. The profession became also a very good economic vehicle. And all of a sudden, we have people going into school saying, well, I was going to be a PT, but when I found out a chiropractor has access to the direct public to have patients, but a PT has to have prescription from an MD, I kind of decided I'd change over and be a chiropractor. Well, that's okay, but it doesn't give you that burning passion. There's no fire in the belly like there was in almost everybody in my graduating class. You have some people going, wow, well, it's really, really a great economic opportunity. You can make a lot of money as a chiropractor if you do it the way the chiropractors that make money do it. And so I'm going to be a chiropractor. Again, nothing, in general, if you set out to do something really well to make money at doing it, it means you usually have to do it really well, or you get found out, booted out of the profession, you never make that money. So it's okay to be money motivated. It can still be a really good doctor, but that burning passion. And when we went into school, we all wanted to learn how to get our hands on somebody and work on them. Some of the people going into school now, they want to go to school, but they don't even know what it's going to entail. Some of them never been to a chiropractor who decide they're going to become a chiropractor. And so there's a different starting point. And so what happens is, in this day and age, I'm working with large practices that often need associate doctors. Yet the schooling has changed so much over the years that sometimes we have to take those associate doctor potentials and teach them how to really treat patients and how to really manage patients appropriately, how to communicate with people. They got great book learning, way more book learning than we had in the day. But how does that translate into bedside manner, patient management, making sure people understand and understand the care, why it's important and what we're doing? What are we trying to accomplish? How are we measuring that? These are all things that if you don't have that full understanding, patients are not going to stay with you. They're not going to refer more people. You're not going to be successful, and you're not going to help as an associate doctor with a skilled doctor. Here's what I would tell students to do. I would tell them, number one, get a mentor. Find a doctor that you really, you visit their office, see what they do with patients. Find someone to model yourself after. I want to grow up and be just like that guy or that gal, and get some passion about what they're doing, how they do it, why you love that particular doctor, that particular clinic, that particular setup, and then work toward emulating that. The other thing I would say that's going to probably be something you might not think of, think bigger. Think bigger than you're thinking. I don't care what student you are and whatever your dream is of your practice one day, think bigger. How can I help even more people? How can I help them better? What is it that I need to learn that people will understand? Not they need to do what I'm going to dictate to them. I'm going to be an authoritarian. My God, I'm going to tell them they got to do this. And if they don't do that, they're not going to get better and they're going to listen to me. Yeah, no, that does not ever maximize. Yeah, you can have a successful practice that way if it's your personality, maybe, if you're really good at what you do and deliver then. But if you want to maximize, listen to the patient. Get to know the people. Let them talk to you about what their needs and desires are and find the ways to meet that for more and more people, helping more people. And the only place to not think bigger than you're already thinking is your initial starting overhead. Think smaller. The number one reason that all businesses, not chiropractic offices alone, all small businesses, the number one reason they go out of business is they're undercapitalized. They don't have enough money in the bank to survive the expenses of their business and personal expenses long enough for the cash flow in their clinic or their business to catch up and be able to pay those bills. And they run out of money and they run out of the ability to get more capital. And then they go out of business and they have a bankruptcy or they just quit. And now it's really hard to start again. When you're going to start, all you need is a table, a manila folder, and a piece of paper. And you can literally take care of a patient, make appropriate notes, and do everything you need to do. And as you start to increase your cash flow, then you can add in more sophisticated equipment, staff to help, or whatever as it goes. I really discourage, unless you've got an unlimited supply of money, you got a family that's going to back you, that's all fine. But for the typical person going out, this idea of spending $100,000 to open a practice that's going to have an overhead immediately of $8,000 a month, and most of you got student loans now to deal with, you're setting up a recipe for failure. Start not small, inexpensively, in a way that you know your steps to expand as your cash flow increases. And you've got a much better chance of being successful. And again, don't forget this point. There is no education that you can pay for, no classroom you can sit through. There is nothing you can do prior to being in a practice, mentored by someone who knows what the heck they're doing. That educate, no matter what you're getting paid. We have students get out of school. Well, I got student loans. I got things I got to do. I'm not going to work for you unless you pay me X number of dollars. I want to tell you what, I would work for somebody for room and board if it was the doctor I wanted to emulate, because you can't get that education in any school in the United States. Here's my riff.
Well, you dropped a lot there. And one of the things I was ruminating on yesterday while I was at the gym was, it's kind of an awkward, but a poignant, add into what you just mentioned. Would you sell your chiropractic diploma for what you paid for it? Would anybody pay you for it? And I think we have to go back to the rule book of what it takes to become educated and deliver the goods. I believe that we do a lot of compliancy for getting an education, but what you're telling me is it doesn't necessarily make a better chiropractor.
It doesn't necessarily. It gives you, people they get the idea that when I graduate, get a diploma, I'm a doctor and I'm ready to go treat people and do a great job. Your experience level is zero. And I think anybody who's had any life experience knows that where you really get good at something is not when you practice it, it's when you perfect practice it, right? It's not practice makes perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. And boy, you can practice hitting the wrong notes on an instrument for a long time, but once you start hitting the right notes and then you hit them over and over and over, now it's not only are you hitting the right notes, now they're smoothing out. Now you're starting to be at a level where someone should pay you to see the performance. And you've got to get there no matter what it is you do.
I'm really curious. You mentioned first thing you would do is tell somebody to go find a mentor. Who are your mentors? Who helped you out?
Well, there are a lot of names that are recognizable in the profession. If I go back and I look at a list of them, Roy Hillgartner was my instructor in Logan Chiropractic College, and he was the first one to talk to me about practice development, practice management, how to run an office. And if he hadn't been in my life would be different. Then I actually hired mentors very quickly when I was out on my own, and that would be Dr. Rolla Pinnell, Dr. Gordon Heuser. These were instrumental people in my life. I credit them for every bit of success I had in practice. It was their fault. It was not my field doctor, the doctor I went to with my mother. That was not the model that I followed at all. His practice was not the model I followed at all. Once I learned more about chiropractic, I wanted to follow a different model, but he was still the one that got that result, was therefore instrumental, in my life. There's people out there teaching now. Mitch Malley, very, very highly respected, teaches, extremity adjusting. Very, very cool guy. Dan Murphy does a great job. I teach a lot of the times I run into these people when I'm teaching at a convention, and they're also teaching, and I sit in on their classes. Silverstein, they're teaching some great information, great functional things, just doing a fantastic job. A friend of mine that I went to school with, lifelong friend, Dr. Tim Brady, he's one of my mentors, because we would bounce things off of each other and try to figure out how to do it better and how to do it more effectively, more efficiently, how it was going to help. And so there's a lot of ways to have, mentors. Now, of course, I mentor directly to a group of practitioners that I'm their private mentor. I don't usually even take new people in that group unless someone dies or retires, because it's very intense, and I can only kind of work with so many people at a time. Plus, it's expensive. Most people don't want to go that route. But again, that work is where I'm in the profession on a daily basis across the country. And from that, we find out things like what you have to do with HIPAA compliance. There's 11 things you have to do on your HIPAA program every year, and you have to document it, written documentation, or you're not compliant. And if you get cyber attacked and someone breaks into your computers and gets to your patient information, that's an automatic HIPAA violation. Because if you had a HIPAA program in place doing what it's supposed to do, they couldn't successfully break into your computer. So you have to report that to the government. And then the government's going to send you a questionnaire and say, send me this information about your HIPAA program. If you can't produce it, you're probably going to be in line for minimum willful neglect fines. They're now up to $71,000 minimum, up to $1.7 million. And this stuff has to not only be done, but has to be documented. There's a lot of things like that. Now that I build programs for doctors, I help doctors constantly with those kind of problems to solve them, to get them off their plate so they can put their mind back on their duty, which is to help as many people as they can possibly help. So to me, the cybersecurity you were talking about, the HIPAA compliance, the federal compliance, I don't have any love for that stuff. What I'm trying to do is get the doctors where they can get that in a format that we can manage it for them so they can go see patients and not worry about that anymore. It's kind of like with malpractice. You look around, is there anything that could injure anybody? Am I doing anything that could damage anybody? No, I get it as clean as I can. Then I buy malpractice insurance, and then I go to sleep at night and I forget about it. And I go see my patients. It's a little different with compliance, but we put it in place. We get it in place. We make sure it's all staying current, which is required so that you don't get fined, don't get knocked out of practice, and you don't have to worry about it more than a few minutes here and there to catch things up to current, and you can go see your patients and take care of your patients. I started doing this stuff with compliance because my guys and gals that I was helping build their practices were at risk, and I needed to protect them. And when I created a way to protect them, I said, this is something the whole profession needs. This isn't something that just my group who've decided to be aggressive and go build a practice and want help. Everybody else has different attitudes about that. But everybody in the profession needs to be protected from the federal government, basically, or I'm protecting you from your own government. I'm not a big government fan, but some of these things also make sense, and they need to be done to protect our patients' information. But by and large, what needs to be done is a comprehensive program that allows that doctor to focus on their patients. Let me do what I'm an expert at. I'll build your compliance for you. You go do what you can do, which is take care of your patients. And if I can help you take care of more patients, I'm still fulfilling my duty in a bigger and bigger way. And that's how I ended up where I am today.
Well, I know you do a great impact with helping support this beautiful profession. And I can tell there's a lot of passion behind the work that you produce. And not everything was once your wheelhouse, but you learned what was necessary to include to help more people. And I think it's really
cool. Old, but I don't see quitting anytime soon. It's too much fun.
So last question for you. I know that there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to, but um, I'm curious. Where do you see chiropractic going? Let's not go too far out into the future. Let's talk about the next 4 years. How do you see chiropractic establishing itself over the next 4 years?
Well, again, into that area of functional, into that area of being the anti-aging profession, I think we can move that way quickly. I also see another trend that I like to see mixing into the population of chiropractors, which is, and I'm not suggesting that chiropractors should stop taking insurance or not do PI work or work comp. I think they should do all of that to the best they can. But I think chiropractors are getting better at talking with patients relative to what I just call cash services, which, and the reason I say that is this: there's a lot of things that we know are really function well, and they do a great job. But you have to remember, insurance companies often do not cover different types of procedures, sometimes for 10 or 20 or 30 years after they've been proven to be extremely effective. And so if a patient wants to access some of these types of care, it's a cash item. And I think chiropractors are getting better at explaining to patients sort of, if I had to just sort of bottom line it, look, here's the best we know how to do right now. And if you want to do the best, it costs this much. Is that possible for you? And if the patient goes, oh no, I couldn't possibly, pay that on my, fine, then we'll do it the old fashioned way and use their insurance and do those other things. But for some people, you can render a better service, do better care if we don't have to deal with or worry about whether their insurance covers it or not. So again, I'm not saying to deny insurance or not utilize that or let people allow them a way to use their benefits they have. But as those things tighten up, as insurance pays less and for less things and gets harder to deal with and more documentation, and we've got people with higher and higher deductibles, you have to look out there now, and realistically, in the chiropractic world today, almost all patients are cash patients because they got a $5,000 deductible or $10,000 deductible. And if they haven't met that deductible, then whatever they do with you, it's going to be cash. Now, this leads me to a really important point. People tend to not mind spending cash for things that they understand or believe will work. They hate spending cash on a maybe, a risk, a gamble, or something that's going to fail. And the better chiropractors are, and I just say it this way, of explaining the value proposition. Yeah, you're going to spend X number of dollars, but here's what you're going to get that you can't get anywhere else. And the better chiropractors get at explaining the value proposition, what is the exchange that occurs, they get better at talking about money with patients without feeling like, oh, I can't say that it costs $5. I can't talk about money with patients. They'll think I'm trying to rip them off. No, understand what you've got. Understand what you have the ability to provide for the patient. Put a fair price on it and talk to people about the cost. Don't be afraid to talk about the cost. And I'll tell you another thing that's very important. Some people, maybe you think they should, maybe you want to talk to them about a program of care, 20 visits, 30 visits or whatever, but you're afraid about the money. Hey, you know what? If you got to take baby steps first, tell them, look, I think the best way to do it, it's probably going to take X number of visits with a problem like yours. But you know what? Let's do a couple of visits first and see how quick you respond. We'll revisit it. And when a patient starts to get an improvement, which usually happens within 3 visits or less, now they want to talk about with you, what else can you do for me? How far can we take this? And now they want to figure out a way to give you the money. Well, is there a way we can make payments? Can I do so? I mean, they want to, instead of, well, I don't know, I need to think about it. Let me go home and talk to my spouse about it. I'll get back to you on that. Instead, they're moving toward you saying, well, I want to do that. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, but can we work out, is there an arrangement we can make? And they come toward you, not away from you. And if you find that your patients tend to be sitting back and moving away from you and say, well, I need to think about that or whatever, The problem is you're probably coming on too strong. You're coming on and trying to tell that patient, here's what you need to do, and here's what it costs, and don't tell me about how expensive it is because I don't want to hear it. That's not going to be your way to reach the most people. You got to meet them where they are. Explain the best. In my opinion, with my experience, this is the best. Is that possible for you? And if they go, oh, geez, I don't have that kind of money or whatever, go, fine. Here's some other alternates that we can do, other starting places. How would you like to handle your healthcare? What's important to you? Find out what they want and what's important rather than trying to dictate to them what they need to do. And you'll be much more successful with happy patients who refer you people and stay with you.
Stay, pay, and refer. And in marketing, we call what you just explained, give them what they want and sell them what they need.
And I always say the 4 pillars of chiropractic, a chiropractic business, is start, stay, refer, and pay. If the patient doesn't start with you, you're dead in the water. If they don't stay with you, you've got a revolving door. You have to constantly be replacing them to stay in the same place. If they don't refer to you, then they have not given you the vote of confidence, and you have to keep doing marketing things all the time just to generate new people through the door. And obviously, if they don't pay you, your doors are closed. You can't pay your people and you can't pay your bills. So most of you say, well, isn't it really tough to know everything you need to do to consult to a chiropractor and help them build a practice? Not really. I usually talk to them for about 5 minutes and can determine, is it the start? Is it the stay? Is it the refer? Or is it the pay? So we just eliminated usually 3/4 of things we could do. We're down to 1/4 because usually one of those things is the main problem in the office at any given moment. Then we can focus on, well, what do you do to improve that? Find out what they do, find out what they're not doing that usually works, and start to supply the difference. And I do have ways that I can help all chiropractors with that information, including film video clips from my inner circle meeting where I meet with the real deal stuff. I do have a modular program where every month you get a certain amount of material or information that you can do at your own pace and use at your own pace. So I have a way to get a lot of the information that I use with my consulting clients out to anyone in the profession, but it's not nearly as effective, of course, as one-on-one communication, and we talk things through and we know and learn each other and what we can do. But it's a really good way to get some of these basics that when some people are stuck in their practice, they don't know what to do. They don't have any ideas to say, oh, I know I should do this, but I don't want to, and I don't know anything else to do. Yeah, I mean, I do have a way. If you contact me, I've got a way to help with that. Again, it's not to the effectiveness of the personal mentoring, but for most people out there, the biggest thing I could do to help them that are in practice is to get their compliance in order so they can leave that behind. And then we establish a relationship through that. And if there's other ways I can help, I get the people that I'm working with compliance, they're constantly, hey, I've got this staff person. What should I do about this? And this patient said that, what would you do with that? So I end up answering those questions just as a courtesy because they know that I help people in those areas. And so they naturally ask and I naturally share because I like to.
Well, if you guys want to work with Dr. Ty, go to drtythecomplianceguy.com. Ty, it was awesome having you on for an episode. I think we got a lot of clarity for people out there that are watching. Great information, great feedback, great frameworks for people to understand how to progress as a chiropractor, but also how people can understand the profession better from compliancy and a services rendered profession. And I think that a lot of times people don't understand chiropractic as a service-based industry. They think that it's a quick fix profession and it is a relationship style business. And the more that people understand that part about it, people can then figure out how to navigate those relationships from B2C and from B2B. And they get a chance to understand how to do business within this very confusing group called healthcare. And I know that chiropractic is a standalone profession and it's an amazing, beautiful profession. And I'm just very thankful for you to be on with me. You're episode 712 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Thanks for being our guest today.
I appreciate it. Have me back anytime.
I will. Once again, go to Dr. Ty, thecomplianceguy.com. And I'm sure that Dr. Ty will be happy to hear from any of you and all of you. And with that, I close out like I always do. You guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on next episode. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.